The Lord be with you.
and with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you.
Jesus went around to all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom, and curing every disease and illness. At the sight of the crowds, his heart was moved with pity for them, because they were troubled and abandoned, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is abundant, but the laborers are few. So ask the master of the harvest to send out laborers for his harvest." Then he summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits to them out and cure every disease and every illness. Brothers and sisters, the Gospel of the Lord.
Praise be Jesus and Mary. Saint John Mary Vianney, known as Cura Ars, priest of Ars, parish priest of Ars in France, was born during the days of the French Revolution. He was ordained priest in 1815. 3 years later, he was made parish priest of Ars, a remote French community where his reputation as a confessor and director of souls made him known throughout the Christian world. He died on August 4, 1859 at the age of 73. In 1925, John Mary Vianney was canonized by Pope Pius XI, and in 1929 made him patron saint of all parish priests. In 1959, to commemorate the centenary of John Vianney's death, Pope John the 23rd issued the encyclical letter Sacerdoti Nostri Primordia, from the beginning of our priesthood. John Paul II visited Ars in person in 1986 in connection with the bicentenary of Vianney's birth and referred to the great saint as a rare example of a pastor acutely aware of his responsibilities and a sign of courage for those who are candidates to the priesthood. In honor of the 150th anniversary of Vianney's death, Pope Benedict XVI declared a year of the priest, declaring him patron not only of parish priests, but of all priests. Last year, during the 160th anniversary of his death, Pope Francis wrote a letter to priests, exhorting the priests that amidst the crisis, scandals, and challenges that the church is facing, they have to remain grateful, courageous, and continue to praise the High Priest Jesus Christ for the gift of priesthood as exemplified by Saint John Mary Vianney. My dear friends, what made Saint John Mary Vianney considered as patron of all priests? Surely there are a lot of valid reasons, but allow me to share and limit myself to 3 points, beginning with letter P of what Saint John Mary Vianney's pastoral charity, his pastoral zeal. Patience filled with faithful perseverance, prayerful life, sealed with the spirit of penance, and the providence of the Lord, animated by a personal love. First point, patience filled with faithful perseverance. John Vianney was born into a peasant family. His family was poor in material possessions, but rich in humanity and in faith. He spent so many years of his childhood and adolescence working in the fields and tending the flocks that at the age of 17, he was still illiterate. Nonetheless, he knew by heart the prayers of his devout mother had taught him and was nourished by the sense of religion in the atmosphere he breathed at home. At the age of 29, after numerous uncertainties, many ordeals, misunderstandings, quite a few failures, and many tears, he was able to walk up to the Lord's altar and make the dream of his life come true. Accordingly, John had failed many times in Latin class. Yet, he may not be good in Latin language, but he was very good in the language of the heart, where he just wanted to follow and imitate the Lord's heart, to the point that the Lord blessed him later on with an incorruptible heart. He was very diligent on the language of the will, that is patience, endurance, determination, and zeal, enthusiasm, courage, and audacity from his formative years and later on in his ministry as pastor of souls. This can be beautifully summed up even during the year of the priest, this theme: fidelity to Christ, fidelity to the church, fidelity of the priest of ours, and hopefully my and your fidelity and perseverance too. Patience filled with faithful perseverance. Second, prayerful life sealed with the spirit of penance. He arrived in Ars, a village of 230 souls, warned by the bishop beforehand that there he would find religious practice in a sorry state. His bishop told him, "There is little love of God in that parish. You will be the one to put it there." As a result, John Vianney was deeply aware that he needed to go there to embody Christ's presence and to bear witness to his saving mercy. This was his prayer, his ardent prayer. "Lord, grant me the conversion of my parish. I am willing to suffer whatever you wish for my entire life." With this prayer, he entered upon his mission. He spent hours in the Blessed Sacrament. He prayed to the Eucharistic Lord, whom he considered the real pastor, the good shepherd that he needed to listen to and follow. The cura parroco devoted himself completely to this parish's conversion, setting before all else the Christian education of the people his care. He made a lot of sacrifices, acts of penance, even wept for the sins of his parishioners, and offered all of them for the spiritual healing of his flock. After the example of the Good Shepherd, he gave his life in the decades of his priestly service. His existence was a living catechesis that acquired a very special effectiveness when people saw him celebrating Mass, posing before the tabernacle in adoration, and spending hour after hour in the confessional, 16 to 18 hours during summer, and a little less during winter. He knew, he reached out, he smelled like a sheep, he loved his sheep, he laid down his life for his sheep. Prayerful life sealed with the spirit of penance. Lastly, providence of the Lord animated by a personal love. My dear friends, Pope Benedict, our emeritus, has this beautiful thought of the relevance of Vianney. Pastoral methods of St. John Mary Vianney might hardly appeal suited to the social and cultural conditions of the present day. Indeed, how could the priest today imitate him in a world so radically changed? Although it is true that times change and many charisms are characteristic of the person, hence unrepeatable, there is nevertheless a lifestyle and a basic desire that we are all called to cultivate. At a close look, what made this pastor, this parish priest holy, was his humble faithfulness to the mission to which God has called him. It was his constant abandonment, full of trust to the hands of divine providence. It was not by virtue of his own human gifts that he succeeded in moving people's heart, or even by relying on a praiseworthy commitment of his will. He won over even the most hardened souls by communicating to them what he himself lived deeply, namely, his friendship with Christ. He was in love with Christ, his intimacy, his deep personal love of the Lord. After all, what is the definition of St. John Mary Vianney of the priesthood? He defined priesthood as the love of the heart of Jesus. The true secret of his pastoral charity and zeal that became successful to our saint was the fervor of his love for the Eucharistic mystery, celebrated and lived, which became love for Christ's flock, for Christians, and for all who were seeking God. His testimony reminds us, dear brothers and sisters, that for every baptized person, and especially for every priest, the Eucharist is not merely an event with two protagonists, a dialogue between God and me, but rather, Eucharistic communion aspires to a total transformation of one's life and forcefully opens the whole human eye of man as a person and create a new we, the community. This is what St. John Mary Vianney did to the people of ours. Dear brothers and sisters, today more than ever, we need to pray and to beg to the Lord of the harvest good and holy pastors according to the heart of God. Our saint has these strong words: live a parish for 20 years without a priest, and they will end by worshiping the beast there. The priest is not a priest for himself. He is a priest for God's people. Let us pray and support the culture of vocations in the church. Let us pray that all those whom the Lord has called and chosen, and all those preparing for priesthood and religious life, embody the grace of patience filled with faithful perseverance, prayerful life filled with the spirit of penance, and believing and living in the providence of the Lord, animated by a personal love. Send, O Lord, St. John Mary Vianney,